Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sisterly. You're here with your co hosts, Olivia and Rebecca. We're so excited to have you back for another episode. If you follow us on Instagram, you probably saw that we put up a poll this past week about red flags and green flags in relationships and what people consider to be their own personal flags. And we're so excited to talk about those, as well as Rebecca and I's individual red and green flags in dating and relationships on this week's episode. Before we get into that, we just want to catch up a little bit with you all. Mainly, I want to talk about one very specific topic, which was that Rebecca introduced me to a new TikTok trend.
Yeah. Yeah, I've recently joined, TikTok, and it's fascinating, and I waste a lot of time on it now, which is why I held out so long on not getting it because I knew I would waste a ton of time on it, and I was correct, but it's fine, at least I know myself, I guess, and then, I realized this trend the past few days to this song called Infinity where people are using, like, ring lights to do, like, these transitions, and for the most part, it's just, like, men trying to show off their muscles and be like, "Look, I'm, like, hot," and you just, like, didn't realize, and it's like, okay." But there are some cute ones with, like, pets, like, people did it with their, like, dogs and cats, and then they, like, come through in slow motion, and they look very cool and majestic, so I'm really into the pet ones.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might need to do it with my cats.
You
I
should.
can't imagine they're going to be super cooperative, though, with this
Yeah, you
experience.
just need to get them to walk through the ring light, so maybe, like, lure them with a treat or something.
That's fair, but they don't do anything that they don't wanna do, which can be challenging. But anywho,
I respect
I'm
them for it,
I'm
but
gonna check it out, see if I can do it with my cats. Rebecca also suggested because sorry, to back up, I have a lot of ring lights, which is another story for another time. But I have at least 2, if not 3 ring lights in my apartment.
that's so wild. I
Um,
have 0 ring
it's a lot
lights.
of ring lights. It's a lot of ring
I would
lights
like one.
for a gal to have. Listen, I'll check. If I can fit it in my suitcase when I come home
Yeah,
for
bring me
Christmas,
a
I
ring
will
light.
bring you
I
a
don't know
ring
what
light.
I'm gonna do with it, but I feel like it's fun to have
Well,
one.
that's the thing, I never use mine, any of my 3, and Rebecca was saying that I should make an Instagram live because I have a ring light.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
I
what
don't
the
know what that could be
influencers
about.
do.
Yeah, it is what the influencers do. I don't know if I would consider myself an influencer, so
I'm influenced.
I I don't know what I would live about, but if you all wanna see me go live on Instagram, let me know, and also let me know what to talk about, um
On said live.
on said live. Um, so yeah, that's mainly what I wanted to catch up on.
This
So
TikTok trend.
yeah, I just want to talk about that.
Let us know
Talk
what
about my
your
ring
favorite
lights.
TikTok trends are. This is not my favorite. This is just the one that I've seen recently, and I also like the makeup transformation ones. Those are fun.
I love. I'm trying to think. There were some like more towards the beginning of the pandemic that I really loved. Like I really loved those dance trends, specifically to the like "Blinded by the Lights" song by The Weeknd.
Yeah, those were good.
Loved those ones. I love pretty much all animal TikToks.
Have you seen the new dance? It's like a TikTok dance, but it's to like a Christmas song. The one that's, like, clomping, like, horse hooves and,
I feel
like,
like
a
yes.
dun 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 dun, dun.
I think I have
It's
seen
pretty
those.
funny.
TikTok's a wild place.
It is.
I love it. I really do.
It's
Oh,
very, like
also
it's happier than some other social media places.
yeah, I feel like I also should mention if you're new here or if you don't follow me on TikTok, I think it's Olivia F. Hayes on TikTok. Rebecca and I did go like low key
We
viral
went
one
kind of
time.
viral. I was impressed with
Not
us.
like crazy viral, but like not nothing. We had like almost 1 million views.
We did. I was impressed with us.
So I'm just waiting to get stopped on the street. I'll be known as the girl from TikTok.
Yeah.
So, anywho,
It
can't wait for
features our
that.
youngest brother as well.
Yes, it does feature our youngest brother. Also, it doesn't really matter. Sorry, I'm really going on a tangent here. It doesn't really matter, but like 3 people commented on that TikTok that I look like Beanie
Yeah, they
Feldstein,
did,
and I
from
was just like,
Booksmart.
interesting. So let me know if you agree. I
Yeah,
kinda see it.
I couldn't tell because I couldn't tell if one of them was saying that I looked like the other girl from Booksmart.
Which you don't even a little bit.
I was like, "I don't think that's true."
She has,
Like,
like,
we both
reddish
have, like
hair.
yeah, we have different hair colors. I was like, "We both have kind of, like, oval faces, but that's about as far as it goes."
Yeah.
But
I don't really think Beanie Feldstein and I really look alike either. I could kinda see it maybe from, like,
you're
that
just, like,
angle.
white with, like, brown hair, but
Yeah.
maybe it
I
was
mean,
because you were wearing, like, overalls, and I feel like she maybe wears
yeah.
overalls.
Someone was like, "Wait," like, they weren't even there were a couple that weren't even like, "Oh, you look like Beanie
They were like,
Feldstein." It
"Oh,
was like,
it's that
"It's
girl from
it's that
Booksmart."
girl from
They thought it was
Booksmart."
you. Yeah. Like,
What?
"Oh, okay."
I should've been like, "Yep, follow me here for more behind the scenes content." Anyhow, so
Uh,
TikTok's a dream. But getting into our topics for today, I'm really excited to talk about this one because I feel like a lot of you all who listen to us engaged with our questions on Instagram, which is super exciting because then we can talk about things that you specifically care about in relationships. And it's also just fun to see what other people's like red flags are, what like green flags are. Also, just to back up, in case you don't know what a red flag and a green flag is, because
oh,
we
yeah.
should not just
Good to
assume.
say.
It's basically just like if you're dating someone, it could be new, you could be in a relationship. Like if it's a red flag, it could be something, it's almost like a con or like a,
It's almost like it's also can be like a deal breaker or
yeah,
like
or something to watch out for in a negative
alarming
way.
behavior.
Yeah, and then a green flag's kind of the opposite. So something that, makes you feel confident in that person as a potential partner, something you like, something you want to see more of, something that makes you more attracted to them.
Mhm.
Um, so I think today we're going to first talk about some red flags and we'll end on green flags and on a positive.
Mhm.
Love doing that. And we're going to talk about some of Rebecca and I's like personal red flags and like where we've seen those in our own lives, but then also really get into your responses, some of them which we just thought were like hysterical.
Mhm.
So can't wait to get into those.
For sure. So for red flags, I feel like we'll start with maybe the most obvious or like worst ones that like probably a lot of people would have as their red flags. Um, but for me, I put, you know, violent. That's an immediate no go.
Yeah, that's
um,
a no for me, dog.
it's a no for me. Abusive, whether that's physical, emotional, mental, um, racist or sexist or homophobic. All of those a no go for me. um, if they isolate you from your friends and family, um, that could probably be tied into like a level of abuse, but isolating you. And I also said like bullying.
Yeah, and I feel like that's also not even just like bullying you, but bullying others.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a bully, like to you for sure, but also if they like if you see them bully other people, like other family
Yeah.
members, friends, like coworkers, just random people, as a definite no go.
Yeah. Just like get some of the obvious ones out of the way. Like if this is like an evil person,
Yeah,
like red flag.
it's just like kind of your stereotypical bad person.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. But
let that one
then
pass by.
yeah, but then kind of moving more towards like I think there's sometimes things that you see once maybe, right? And you're like absolutely not. So like
Yeah,
say you see someone who is like racist, sexist,
right. You're
phobic
like
of
one and done.
it, yeah. Like you see it once and you're like cool,
No,
bye.
thank
Like
you.
no thanks. And then there's some that maybe like you see once and you like ponder a little bit. You're like
Yeah,
that's
or you're
weird
like
or
maybe that was just like a one-off thing.
yeah, yeah. And so like one of them that also came up in some of your responses was like being rude to any sort of like wait staff or like support staff of like
Yeah, or like customer service
customer service
people, or like
people,
yeah,
um, which I definitely agree with. Like shouting at anyone who's like serving you or helping you, definitely
yeah.
a red
I
flag.
think this is a good one. And also it's like not even shouting, but just like just being acting like you're superior or acting like they
Yeah,
like work for you or treating them unkindly while they serve you or just I don't know, having an attitude, very off-putting.
totally. Like if they in any way act like they are better than like a waiter in any capacity, that's like no thanks.
Yeah, or like they're
Um,
inconveniencing them in some way. I just feel like most people I know who are my age are so understanding of how hard it is to be like a wait staff
yeah,
person or a customer service type person or like a retail person and are just like so patient and so willing to be like not a problem, understanding, whatever. And if you're not like that, it's kind of like, what are you doing?
Totally. Because also, I'm the type of person, like, I obviously do not try to be an over complainer, but I feel okay about saying, like, speaking up if something is super wrong. I'll give one example. One
Hmm.
time I ordered from Instacart, which is like a food delivery service, and my food was delivered and there was like blood all over the bag.
Cause for alarm.
So I was like worried for like several reasons. And like I felt pretty confident to reach out to Instacart and be like, what happened here? Like
Yeah.
there's blood all over my
There might
bags.
have been a crime committed on the way to deliver these.
Yeah, and I got my money back, which I felt like was fair. I mean, honestly, it wasn't even like, "Oh, I should have my money back in return for this." I was just kind of like, "Yo, like what happened here? Like
Yeah.
is my driver okay? Like
Right.
what occurred?" It wasn't even also like I mean, it wasn't obviously like a ton, but it wasn't like a drop. It was like all over the
Smeared
bag.
around. You're like,
And like my food was wrapped, so it's like,
I'm
it's not
still gonna
like
eat it,
yeah, I'm
but
going to eat the food, but I was just kind of like this is weird. So,
not your normal occurrence.
and then I have had instances where not that I was necessarily rude, but maybe I asked for things that were unreasonable. Like one time I got in an Uber and there was like a nail sticking out of like
In the Uber?
the seat,
I
yeah,
mean that
and it ripped my leggings.
that
And
is
I
a little bit odd.
and I was really upset. I didn't complain to the driver though. I did reach out to Uber support and was like, "Can I get a refund for my leggings?" They were like, "No."
Oh. They wouldn't give you one for, like, the ride?
I think they did for the ride.
Oh,
They
okay,
did for the
okay.
ride,
I
which
was
was
like, at
very
least the
nice of them.
ride.
But, like, I don't know what my thought process was. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, send them a receipt of
Yeah,
how
send
much
them an
my, like,
invoice for
Lululemon leggings cost? And they were what? Gonna, like, buy me another pair? Like, customer support's like, "Sure, like, we'll go on right now and, like, send you another pair." Like, what? So, I don't know what my thought process was there. But they did refund my ride.
Well,
Anywho,
that's good. At least that's something.
and who knows, maybe I'm a red flag. That's possible. Um, but I think there are ways that you can like go about if like you get something incorrect or something's messed up, you can speak like politely or like go through the proper channels rather like when people scream at a waiter for their food like not being cooked the like fully or whatever. It's like they didn't cook it. So,
Right, right, exactly.
and
So
even if they
just be
did, like you
aware
can
of
ask nicely.
yeah, exactly.
Um, so
Another one
yeah,
that I had, thought of was just, like, as a red flag, just generally kind of being a hater, like, being negative about things, like,
totally.
generally, but also specifically being negative about what other people like and, like, putting it down.
Yeah.
Like, being a person who doesn't even like anything, but just, like, critiquing what other people like or sticking your nose up at it or, like, pointing out why what someone likes is lame or not intellectual or why it's a bit bad or something. It's so off-putting.
Totally. I had a conversation with some of my girlfriends about this recently where it's like I feel like a lot of times, especially in college, like guys would be mean to girls who liked like pop music. They'd be
Yeah.
like,
Ugh, that's such
"Ugh,
a
like you
what's the word?
like
It's
top
just so
100."
overused
Yeah.
thing to
I'm
act like they're
like
so indie,
I'm
so
like, "Do you
cool.
know why it's called pop music? Because it's popular
It's
because so many people are
popular.
listening to it." Like I don't know what else to tell you. Like
Yeah,
lots of
like,
people like this.
it's pop because most people like this.
I like Taylor Swift. Get over it. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Like I don't care what you think.
Will not apologize for it.
Never.
Thank you.
So totally. But I agree. Like someone who's like constantly negative, like hates on everything. No.
It's just like, what are you bringing to the table? It's like one thing, like, you're allowed to not like things, but it's like, what's that saying? It's like, don't yuck someone's yum. Like, don't
Yes,
like,
I love that saying. I say it way too often.
it's just like, don't like be a hater about things. Like, especially if you like, it's one thing to say that you don't like something and then you realize, like, oh, someone I'm talking to actually does like that thing and then kind of like leave it.
Yeah.
But to know that someone likes something or to have them tell you that they like it and then to immediately be like, here's why that thing sucks or why it's lame is just like, ew, really? Like,
Yeah.
why?
No, I totally agree. Another one we have is like talking poorly about other people or like gossiping, putting people down
Yeah.
just in general. I think that's like
That's like a red flag for me, just like even in friendships.
friendships.
I'm
Yeah.
like, whenever, or even like with like coworkers, I'm like, if I hear a person like talking shit about somebody else constantly or like putting them down, all I can think about is, like, they must talk about me when I'm not around. Like, there's like,
Totally.
if they do it to you for other people, they have to do it for everyone. So it's just like I become very cautious about what I say in front of someone that I realize puts people down in front of other people constantly.
Yeah, I agree. I also remember, like, in college, there would be guys who would just, like, speak so poorly about girls, like, in front of me, like, girl
Yeah.
and, like, talk so specifically about, like, certain things that they didn't like about the person, whether it be, like, physical or personality-wise, and I was like, "This is gross." Like, you're sitting here looking at a photo of someone, like, judging so specifically, like, things about them that you
Yeah.
don't like, that's
That's so
yeah.
yucky. This is another one that is related. It was not on my, like, list that I had thought of before, but when a guy says you're not like other girls,
Ugh,
big red flag.
big
Big,
red
big,
flag.
big red flag because
Especially,
I'm
like,
just like,
we're girls
um,
girls, like, I love
yeah.
being like other girls.
Yeah, exactly. Girls fucking rule,
They
and,
rule. Boys rule.
they're all strong and amazing, so
Yes. Also, if you know me at all, like, if you've ever met me before or hung out with me even remotely, you probably know how much I love to, like, match my friends, twin with my friends, do what my friends are doing, like,
right.
I love being like them, so
Yeah. They're freaking awesome, and they're it's just the way to my heart is not to tell me that, I'm not like other girls because it
Yeah,
implies you think that other girls are somehow lesser or lame or basic or weak or needy or something, and
yeah.
I'm not about that slander. I'm not
This
here for
happened on The
it.
Bachelorette recently, where
Yes, it
one of
did.
the
He said
guys,
that, and I got so mad.
Martin, was like, "You're not" he was like,
Oh, he said, "Girls in Miami are high maintenance," is what he said.
"Bleh."
Bleh.
How many times can I do that today? Bleh. Gross. Yeah, I hate
And then he
that.
was like, "You're not like that, or you're not like other girls," and
She
I
was
was
like,
just
"What are you
like,
even talking about?"
yeah.
She's
I
like
was like,
he
"That
was
was,
like,
like, such
"Other
a
girls."
broad generalization as
She was
well."
like, he said so many girls think that guys are supposed to do everything for them. I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Do you think guys never do that?" And he was like, "Well, a guy would never think the girl's supposed to do everything." I was
I'm
like,
just like, "Have you met other men?
"Yeah,
They think we're
truly
supposed to be their moms."
true. True." And I also was just like, everything coming out of your mouth is trash every single thing.
Yeah.
Absolute
As soon
trash.
as he said that, I was like, "Michelle, you gotta send him home. He's a big red flag."
Yeah,
As his bleached hair was already cause for concern,
it
and
was
then he
rough.
said
Mhm,
that, and I was
mhm.
like, "Ugh, Martin, you're really not helping yourself
Yeah,
here."
had to go, had to go. Also, anyone who treats you like a second choice, I think that one's also really important too when you get kind of, like, further on into a relationship, but I think you
Mhm.
can kinda suss it out even when you're dating because I understand when you're dating, like, you're just getting to know someone, you don't necessarily have to be with them, like, all the time, or,
Right, right.
maybe you're not someone who likes to text all the time, which is totally fine. But I think, especially as things progress, you can start to feel like, oh, I'm not a person's priority, And
Right, right. Do they make time for me? Like, do they initiate? Do they care about seeing me and knowing what's up
yeah,
with me?
totally. And like, they care about me, they care about my well being. Like, they want to spend time with me. You want someone who feels like, even to like sometimes too, especially in the beginning of relationships, it's not like you have to maybe right away be number one priority, but like be a
Right. But yeah,
priority.
exactly. You have to be on the list. You don't
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah.
be number 1 spot, but
Yeah.
yeah. And then as
Or
your relationship goes on, it's like you should probably be moving up in the list, but
totally. Or I've heard like several examples from friends where it's like their boyfriend or someone they're seeing will be like, "Well, I'm waiting to see what my friends are doing, and if they don't make plans, then I'll be free."
yes, there's a lot of situations where it's like it basically if I don't get a better offer, then I'm free to do something, and that sucks. I hate that so much.
Yeah, that's horrible. It's like, and if you want to do something with your friends, that's totally fair, but you could just be like, I'm busy." Like, if you're waiting to see if someone else is
Right,
free,
right, just say you're not free. Don't,
so
like,
you're not
leave
free.
them dangling on a thread, like, maybe I'll deign to hang out with you if I have the time and nothing else is going on. Like,
Totally.
that makes you
Don't
feel so badly.
Yeah, don't make them feel like, yeah, I don't know, just that you're a backup plan.
Similarly to the treats you like a second choice, like, I think of that in terms of, not prioritizing you or leaving you hanging, but also in the sense of, like, if a person is sort of letting you feel jealous or
Mm,
like there's somebody else, or they're not sure about you, or that they like have options and you're just like one of them. Not that people are allowed to date, people don't have to be like in a monogamous relationship right away or whatever, but if you're constantly feeling like you're not sure if you're feeling chosen and that's making you feel bad about yourself, and that person likes kind of keeping you as an option, on the back burner, that I think is a red
yeah.
flag.
I have a funny story about this. There was this guy in college that I was, like, kind of hanging out with. I feel like
You were
that's a
quote
generous
talking.
term. Yeah, he sucked. Anywho, moving on. But he in the beginning of us, like, first talking, would make a lot of comments about how hot my friends were.
Oh,
And I was like, he truly made me feel like if he could be with those hotter people, he
he
would be,
would.
but he couldn't be, so he was hanging out with me. And I was
Ew.
just truly like, "You are scum of the earth." Like, but here's
He
the thing, I mean, I say
is.
that now, but, like, I continue to still talk to him. Like, I definitely was like, "This is a character flaw," but, like, but
You're like,
I
"Well, I'm
felt
not gonna marry him, but"
yeah, I felt like that's what he was kind of trying to do, though, is, like, make me a little jealous or feel, like, a little
Right, it's like he was, like, trying to knock you down a peg and, like,
yeah.
make you feel like he was somehow out of your league, and it's just like,
Yes.
Not the situation, sir."
Yeah, like, he, like, leveled down to, like, talk to me, and I was just like,
Yeah, that's, like, a big cue to some insecurity and some weird behavior, and yeah, definitely a red flag.
yeah, big red flag. Another thing that he did that's also a red flag was constantly talk about how expensive things were.
Ew.
Yeah. It was no
Like the
good.
things he owned, like how much his stuff
Yes.
was. Ew.
Yes. He would, like I remember I took him to a formal one time. And this was, like, kind of when we stopped hanging out-ish, I think. Ugh, I don't know. I, like, let him have, like, way too much of a presence in my life for way too long. Like, it wasn't even that long. It was, like, a short period of time, but, like,
But it's
way
even
too
still, it
long.
was too much.
Yeah, and he wouldn't stop talking about how expensive his suit was.
Ew.
He was like, "Yeah, my $300 suit," which is funny because I told Jack about that, and Jack was like, "That's literally not even an expensive suit."
Right, that's, like,
Like,
kind
he's
of a
not even
standard
bragging
that's
about the
kind
right
of a
thing.
standard suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, I didn't know, like, I don't know how much suits are. I also couldn't care less. You could be
Right.
wearing a suit from Costco. I don't care. I just
Right.
want you to, I don't know, stop telling me how hot my friends are. Like,
Yeah.
small asks. Small asks. You don't need to be in, a Louis Vuitton suit. I don't care.
Right.
Um,
Oh god.
so
That's
yeah, another
rough.
red flag. But like, yeah, people just talking about how expensive the things that they have are, how expensive their car is, how much money their parents have. Like, I don't care. I don't want to like,
Right. It's just not interesting. I'm like, "This is just not
no.
what I wanna talk about," and it just signals something weird that, like, they're insecure about it, or they feel the need to, like, overcompensate by saying it. It's just like, nobody asked.
Also, a lot of times it's like people will do this not about things that they really worked for, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's like, "Oh, my parents got
It's
me this
not like
really expensive suit," or like, "Oh, I have this really expensive car that, like, my parents got me." Like,
right, it doesn't, like, come from a place of, like, "Oh, wow, I worked really, really hard for this thing, and I'm so excited, like, look at this thing I got.
totally.
I'm so stoked that I was finally able to get it." It's usually not that, because I feel like that's more understandable to be
Yeah.
like, "I worked really hard, and I've wanted this thing for so long, and I'm so excited that I have it, and I can't believe it." But to be like, "Yeah, like, my parents have a vacation home in Bali, and so I'm just gonna, like, spend my time there, and then when I come
So
home, they're gonna
funny.
pick me up in the Lambo." Like,
Yeah.
no
If you're
no
not
one
being picked up
asked.
in a Lambo, like, what are you even doing? Um, no, but yeah,
Uh,
it's just, like, bragging like that, not cute, red flag. Also, I feel like people who are really obsessed with, like, money, how flashy things are, sometimes it's, like, indicative of a larger problem, to be honest, like,
yeah, yeah.
larger character flaws rather like, even more
Like,
so
looking
than
for,
just
like,
that.
validation, like, external
Yeah,
validation. Yeah.
totally. So, um, yeah, I feel like I could, like, psychoanalyze people who talk like that all day long, but I'm not qualified, so moving on.
So we
Um,
won't.
so move on. Um, Another red flag is anyone who's trying to, like, rush you into a relationship or kind of, like, force it on you, and I feel like that can kind of come up in, like, a lot of ways. I feel like sometimes people can make you feel like if you don't date them, you'll never have anyone else, you'll never find anyone better.
Yeah, I feel like the rushing can happen, like, in various stages in your relationship. It can be, like, rushed to be like, "Oh, okay, like, we're a couple." Or it could be rushed to, like, maybe do something physically. Or it
Totally,
could be, like, rushed to, like, "Oh, we're getting married or we're moving in," or whatever, just, like, whatever the stage of the relationship is. Also, I wanna shout out that this was a red flag that someone submitted, that I just agreed with, but I think that, yeah, feeling rushed or pressured in any way is a big red flag, and I feel
yeah,
like alternatively, we're gonna get to green flags later, but, like, a huge green flag for me is, like, someone who lets you go at your own pace and just, like,
totally.
meets you where you are and accepts where you are.
And is also, like, really open to having a conversation about it. If someone's, like, not
Yeah.
open to having a conversation with you about things or makes you feel like if you don't do what they want you to do, they're
You'll
gonna lose
lose them.
interest, yeah,
Yeah.
big
That's like
red
an
flag.
ultimatum, that's not, like, communication.
Yeah, no, thank you. Um,
Thank you. Next.
thank you, next. And speaking of which, on to the next. Another red flag, that came up is someone and this was submitted by one of you, someone who doesn't like your friends or tells you that, like, you should stop hanging out with your friends, and I think sometimes this one can be a little tricky because I do think there shouldn't be an expectation that the person that you wanna be with romantically is going to
Has to
like
be, like,
every single
best
one of your
friends.
friends.
Yeah.
Yes. Or that your all of your friends are going to like them. I think that
Mhm.
that's an unreasonable expectation, and one that I feel like I learned with age. I don't think I felt the same way when I was younger. I think
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, if I don't like your boyfriend, like, why are you gonna keep dating them?
Yeah, right.
I'm your friend." Um but so I think that there can be, like, complicated relationships or once again, you don't always have to hang out with your friends and your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your partner at the same time.
Right.
There could be separation there, but if you have really trusted friends, people you really care about, love spending time with, and the person that you're starting to build a relationship with wants you to isolate yourself from them or not talk to them,
Or, like,
um
criticizes them constantly.
or just, like, gossips about them or, like, talks shit about them to someone else. That's no
Yeah.
good.
Especially because like, friends are, like, the people you chose to hang out with. Like, it's not like your family members where it's like, obviously you love them, but, like, sometimes family members, like, you could have a difficult relationship with them and you can't really do much because 'cause you're related. But, like, friends are people you choose to hang out with, like, you don't have to. And so for you to have people that you care a lot about and that you've chosen to have in your life, if someone comes in and is kinda, like, hates on them, makes you feel bad about them, like, criticizes them or questions why you hang out with them or, like, refuses to hang out with them and, like, makes you kind of choose between them, yeah, that feels like a
Totally.
no-go.
Also, too, because if there are problems in your relationship or something falls apart, normally it's those people that are there to support you. So
Mhm.
you don't want to remove yourself from them just for another person. Of course, this is like a very complicated topic. I feel like we could talk about this forever because also who knows? Like maybe you do have some really toxic friends and now you're with someone who really
Right,
cares
right.
about you and they're trying to point that out. Like there are a lot of scenarios, but I just think in general, anyone who's trying to, like, make big decisions for you or tell you how you should live your life, red
Mhm.
flag.
Yeah.
Another one that came up that we think is important to talk about is if you are dating someone or in a relationship with someone who is, a cisgendered male, that if they don't recognize the privilege that they have, that can be a little bit of a red flag. One thing that I think of specifically is if you're this is, like, kind of a silly one, but if you're dating a man and they don't understand why it's, like, dangerous for you potentially to walk around at night, or why it might be
Mhm.
more dangerous for you at a bar alone, or at a bar in general. Like, if there are certain things like that that they just don't understand or aren't willing to engage with you in conversation about.
Right, like, aren't open to hear about or learn about, like, they might not have their own experience and understanding, but, like, aren't willing to really change their perspective.
Yeah, and this was something that someone wrote into us, and I think it can actually be extended even more broadly into other categories. Like, I think this comes up a lot when you have mixed race or ethnicity couples. And if you're in a couple and your partner doesn't understand your perspective or your
Mm,
experience, and maybe they don't understand it, but they're not willing to engage in conversation with you about it or try to understand why things might be more challenging for you, or you've been through just different life experiences than them, like, that's
yeah.
kind of a red flag as well. I think it's really great when people can have open conversations with their partner about different life experiences. I mean, I know Jack and I have had conversations about the fact that they're like, I don't feel comfortable walking around at night without him. In our neighborhood, it's fine, but just
In certain
in
areas,
certain
yeah.
areas, like, that's not something I wanna do. Or I've even said to him, I feel way safer just having him there with me, and you know, he's like, very understanding of that. And one thing that I found really interesting is one time we were walking and there was a woman on our street who was, like, kinda crying, like, on the ground, like, it looked like something had just happened where maybe she almost got hit by a car or something like that, and she looked really distressed. And I was like, "Oh, we should go in and check on her." And Jack was like, "Actually, I think you should check on her first," because he didn't wanna, like, approach her as, like, kind of a big guy, and, like,
Mhm.
she's on the ground, and he didn't wanna come across as kind of, like, overbearing or scary in any
Yeah, yeah.
capacity. He was like, "You just, like, check first, and if you need me to do anything, I'm here." And I thought that was, like, great that he
Mhm, that he
acknowledged, like,
thought of that.
he doesn't wanna put her in any more stress. And
Yeah, that's
so, which I thought was great. And,
yeah, yeah.
I think he might not have, even if he hadn't thought of that ahead of time, like, I don't know if everyone would have, but also just being open to maybe receiving that feedback or hearing from a different perspective, even
Mhm.
if your intentions are good, is really important. And if someone isn't willing to have a conversation with you, I think that's a big red flag.
Yeah, I feel like overall just, like, being willing to communicate, or if they're not willing to communicate, not willing to, like, hear other perspectives, learn, like, consider that they might not have, like, a full understanding of something. Red flag.
Yeah, definitely. And then our last, like, kind of more bigger red flags is someone who doesn't ask about you, which I think is actually interesting. I've been watching Love Island. I'm behind, obviously, but I'm, like, watching the newest season of Love Island, and one thing that keeps coming up is there's this one guy on the season, Brad. I feel like I
Oh my
just
god,
said that
yeah, Brad.
I feel like I just said that with, like, a lot of attitude. I shouldn't say bad things about Brads in general. I feel like maybe that, but I was just like, "Oh, of course his name is Brad," but, like, maybe that's rude. Anywho, he all these girls keep saying the same thing about him, which is that he just talks and talks and talks about
Yeah, he
himself, and he
doesn't
doesn't
listen
listen,
or
he doesn't
ask
ask
questions.
questions.
Yeah, mhm. It's like he just, like, gets into a conversation and then, like, monologues, and it's like he
Yeah,
didn't come out of that conversation learning anything about the person he was talking to.
and he also is completely unaware. Like, I am a big talker. I love to talk, love to chat, love to chit chat, and sometimes I walk away from a conversation, I'm like, "I hope I didn't, like, monopolize that conversation because I love to talk." And so I hope, like, I didn't walk away. I Sometimes I'm like, "Huh," like, I hope I didn't do that, or I'll be in a conversation, I'll be like, "Hey, remember to, like, actively listen and
Right.
ask questions even though you get excited and, like, love to talk, like, make sure that you're giving other people a moment to breathe and that you're also, like, or sorry, you give yourself a moment to breathe and you give the other person a moment to talk." And make sure you ask them about themselves too. And he just, like, this guy on Love Island just, like, has none of those cues.
Yeah, just does not occur to him. I, as a person who can tend to be, like, more quiet and, like, more of the listener, I especially really appreciate it when someone prompts me, because sometimes it doesn't always occur to me to, like, interject with my thoughts or what I've been up to or something like that. Whereas for other people, I think sometimes it's a little bit more natural to start making connections or saying what they're thinking. And so I really appreciate it when someone sort of pauses and asks me something, because then I feel like, oh, okay, like now it's my turn to talk, and I don't feel like I'm interrupting anyone, and I feel like that person wants to know about me.
Totally. And I think too, even, like, a step beyond that, is, like, someone who asks you genuine questions about yourself
Hmm.
is, like, way more valuable than someone who just asks you, like, random questions. Like, I feel like sometimes when you go on a first date with someone, they can just be like, So, like, where did you grow up? Like, what's your job? I mean, those are all important questions. Like, I understand,
Right.
but I think there's a difference between someone who just asks you questions because they feel like they have to, and someone who really like wants to get to know you, so digs a little deeper or just like feels more genuine when they're asking you a question.
Or I feel like a person who, this probably isn't for like a first date, but like a person who asks you questions that show that they were listening the last time they talked to you because they ask you things related to that or ask you follow up like how did that thing go or like how is your sister, like things that show that they paid attention and retained that information and now want to know more.
Yeah,
Green
totally.
flag.
Yeah, that's a great I know, I feel like we keep kind of getting mixed between like the red and the green flags, but
But I feel like they
they're
intersect.
intertwined. So some of our more like some of them are still serious, but like a little bit more funny or like maybe are a red flag to some people, but to others,
Maybe not.
maybe not. Yeah, maybe they don't care as much. Um, one we want to talk about is like someone who can't keep a secret,
Yeah.
which I think is I feel like might come up more than I would think.
Yeah, it's like I feel like it's just you want to be able to feel like the person you're dating or like you're in a relationship with is like your partner, and if you feel like they can't keep things to themselves sometimes or that like everyone is going to know everything that you said, that's kind of like frustrating and like I don't think like works out in every situation, and can also sometimes tend towards gossipy if it's like they learn a piece of information and then like everyone has to know about it.
Totally. And I was listening to a podcast recently that was talking about the difference between like being able to keep a secret and keep things private and like the
Mm,
difference between that and the fact that when you are dating someone or partnered with someone, um there's, like, a difference, like, there should be things that you're allowed to keep just between the 2 of you that aren't necessarily like, "Ooh, they're keeping a secret," but just,
right.
like, are within the boundaries of your relationship, versus things that are, like, secret, like you keeping abuse a secret, for example. Like,
Right,
that
right, right.
obviously isn't something you should keep a secret, but
Mhm.
maybe something personal to them, personal to their family, or,
Yeah.
maybe there's just certain things that you've been told that you feel like you kinda need to offload to your partner to have, like, a support system there, but you really need them to, like, keep that
Yeah,
within your
keep it there.
relationship.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I think that's, like maybe that's a bigger red flag if if someone was just, like, blab around,
Yeah.
you know?
Just blabbing all day.
Right? Because it's also, like, there's, like, low level secrets of, like, they accidentally always tell someone about, like, a surprise party. Like, that's
Right,
one
right, right,
thing
right, right.
versus, like,
Not
they're
ideal, but not the end of the world.
yeah, 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 versus someone telling, like, deeply personal things about you or others, you
Right,
know?
right. Or, like, you hear stories of, like, you know, situations where it's like, "Oh, yeah, like, my partner, like, tells his mom everything or something," and you're kinda like, "Okay, well, like, there should be boundaries on that to
Yeah.
some level."
Stop telling your mom everything, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell your mom things about you, but, like, don't tell her things that, like, impact me as much, you know? Like,
Right.
there's some things we can keep between the 2 of us.
Yeah. Another one that was submitted to us, but that I agree with, is a more low level red flag, but maybe high level for some, is someone who doesn't like animals or
Mhm.
like doesn't like pets or things like that. Like for me, I don't really think it would work out if someone was just like, I hate dogs.
Yeah, and I feel like this one is super personal because I actually do have good friends who don't like animals, and I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I think it's just it
Yeah,
can
yeah,
really
yeah.
depend on your like, life experience, especially if you've never had an animal before. I think for me, I don't know if I could be with someone long term if they didn't like animals, just
Right.
because I'm only 25 and I already have 3. So
Yeah, I feel
think
like
it would
it's
be a
more like a
problem.
preference thing. It's like if you know you're a person who does love them, then it's not going to really work if a person's like, absolutely not for me. But
Yeah,
if you're a person
because I
who's
also
like
see
pretty
the flip
indifferent,
side.
yeah.
Totally. I see the flip side though, like, I see someone being like, "I don't want to have to care for an animal." Like, that's just not something
Mhm.
that I wanna do. And I think
Yeah, I was
that's
talking to a friend and he was like, "Yeah, I'm kinda dating this girl, but it's not gonna work out." And I was like, "Why?" And he was like, "Well, she has 2 cats and a dog, and I don't like animals." And I was just like, "Oh, well."
fair.
And yeah, I was just like, you know yourself, that's not what you want for your life. Like, he doesn't like pets. Like he's very allergic and he's just like not into it. And I'm like, that's fine. Like that's not for you. So
Yeah. I see it both ways. I think you just gotta be upfront about it. If that's like
yeah.
I mean, this maybe feels like a little bit of a silly one, but it kinda goes back to this idea of, like, you as a person have your own set of values and needs and wants,
Mhm.
and it's important to state those that are high priority for you kinda early on. I mean, of course, you know, if you're, like, casually dating, like, you don't need to maybe talk about, like, your values of marriage on the first date, like, I understand
Right.
that. But if you see someone and you're going out and you really like them and you wanna know more, but they like, you know that you need to have an animal and you don't know how they feel about it, like, don't wait until years in to ask that question, you
Right,
know?
right.
Um,
No time like the present.
yeah, no, just, rapid fire question them. Just wanna know what your thoughts are on the following. Also, like, put it in your Hinge profile, I don't know.
Yeah,
You gotta
I
have a
had thought about
dog,
that.
or, like, you have to be open to animals, I don't know. Um, Another one that came up was just the idea of, like, political ideology not matching up, and I think this once again goes back to, like, values
Like, if this
and
is a big deal for you, like, it could be a deal breaker if someone's, like, not aligned with you. Because I think for some people, people think that their political beliefs are, like, very closely intertwined with, like, their just overall fundamental beliefs and, like, moral
Mhm.
beliefs, so that could make sense why someone who's really far off from you would be, like, a red flag. For some people, maybe they're not that invested in political stuff or, it's not that big of a deal for them.
Yeah, and I would say if it is a big deal for you, I would do some, like, low-key internet stalking in the beginning.
Just suss out that
Just, like, a little
situation.
bit. What's on their social media? What are they putting out there? Like, you might and if it really matters to you, it's probably something you wanna know sooner rather than later.
Mhm.
So I or if it's something that's really important to you, once again, I think that's something you could say early on. Is like, "By the way, this is something that really matters to me, so I wanna talk about it." And if they don't wanna talk about it, then maybe you have your answer.
Yeah. Mhm. We also got, some red flags submitted to us that were a little bit not quite silly, but, like, a little bit less, like, serious than some of the other ones that we've talked about. Um, I got we got one that said, a red flag is if they're an only child.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think that's my favorite one that we got.
I think it's funny because it's, like, obviously, they cannot control that,
It's like
but I think I
they
will say
literally have no control over
they
that.
literally can't control it. I do think though it's more like the attitude. Like, you know how there's like quote like only child syndrome? I feel like it's kind of a red flag if it's like the attitude of someone. It's like, "Oh, I'm an only child and I'm like, I don't know how to share
Yeah.
and I'm like the center of my parents' attention and I expect to like have my needs met by them at all times." Like
Yeah, 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 that's fair.
don't know how to, share things or share the spotlight. So I
Right.
could understand that for sure.
Yes, I do know many only children who do not have that
Yeah,
attitude,
yeah, it
so
is
I don't
by
think it's
no means
universal.
across the board.
Because I also am just like I feel like maybe that says more potentially says more about the parents than it says about the
Yeah.
child, but also not like pregnancy, child rearing, all of it, tough stuff. So you
Yeah.
really don't
You could be
know.
one and done.
Yeah, totally. There's so many reasons, but I just thought that was hysterical. Like, you're an only child, bye.
You're out.
Get get out of here. But I could see like maybe how there's some differences. Like Rebecca and I obviously have 2 brothers, so, like, we come from, like, lots of siblings, and, like, I do feel like when you're one of 4, like, I was a baby for a while, and then I was a middle child, so I feel like I have a lot of middle child and baby syndrome issues. So, like, if you're an only child, you might not get that. You don't understand. Or just like you don't understand the hand-me-down culture. I don't know. Like it just might not be for me. So um another one that we got that I think people I don't know, might be a hot take is that a red flag could be someone who's into foot stuff. And I just think it's layered. I think it's a layered red flag
I feel like it's
because
no, you go ahead.
okay, I was just gonna say, like, once again, it kind of goes back to your own personal beliefs and interests.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I think it's like what we were saying about like communication. Like, if a person is into that and the other person is also fine with that, like, then that's fine. But if
Yeah.
you're a person who's like, not for me, then maybe it is a red flag for you.
I think a red flag for me is just this idea that people once again are pushing things on you or expecting things of you that they haven't had a conversation with you about.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to sexual preferences, I think you just got to have open communication and really talk about what you expect from a partner.
And talk
And
about what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with.
yeah, and like maybe if you just start whipping out foot fetish stuff without having a conversation about it, like that can be alarming
Mhm.
because you might not expect it. Um, so I would just say, like, I think that, I mean, you tell us if you think that's a red flag or not.
Let us know.
You let us know. I say, I'm not here to judge no one. um, yeah, just like communication.
As our high school health teacher would say, communicash.
Communication. And then the last red flag that we're going to talk about, which I feel like is like a stereotype from like early 2000s movies,
Yeah.
is the idea of a person that you're dating um living with their parents.
Mhm. I feel like it's also weird in this, like, pandemic world,
Totally.
where it's kinda like a lot of people had to move home,
Yeah.
and I feel like it sort of depends, like, on your age and what's happening in your life, and, like, there's many a reason why that would need to happen, but I feel like it's, again, kind of like a preference thing, like, if that's a thing that you don't feel good about,
Yeah.
then that's fine for you.
I was thinking about that movie Failure to Launch
That's
with
exactly what I was thinking
Sarah
of,
Jessica Parker and
and
Matthew
Matthew
McConaughey.
McConaughey, uh-huh.
I would say that's a red flag situation.
Yeah,
This
that
man
was a
doesn't
re
wanna
like
grow up.
yeah, he
Or if
didn't
we're
wanna
talking
grow
about
up.
Step Brothers, a red flag. It's like red flags all over the place. But then I also think about Pete Davidson,
Mhm.
lives with his mom on Staten Island, but also bought his mom a very nice home and decked out the basement into an apartment for him to live in.
Right, right,
Different
right. Kind
stories.
of a
Like,
different scenario, yeah.
yeah, like maybe ask some probing
Pete
questions.
Davidson, what a guy. He's dating Kim Kardashian now.
It's like hard for me to talk about. And here's why it's hard for me to talk about. Because this is a quick aside and then we'll get back to it. But I feel like Pete Davidson gets a lot of shit.
He does, I like him.
And I feel kind of bad for him. Like people are like, "Oh my god, can you believe that Kim Kardashian is dating Pete Davidson?" I'm like, "All right, let's not be
He's funny.
rude. Let's not be
He's
rude."
funny.
But I'm also like, "Pete Davidson, are you really ready to be dating Kim Kardashian with her 4 children?" Like
I
I
don't
just
think
feel like
he
there are
is. I
different
don't
life
think he is.
stages.
There are different life stages for sure, but I do like him. I think he's very funny.
Also, I'm like, clearly this guy's got something going on for him because he's dated some of the most no, he's dated the most famous women in this world. I mean, Ariana
I know.
Grande,
Yeah,
Kim
right?
Kardashian, like,
Yeah.
and then other actresses like
I think he also
Kate
dated Kate
Beckinsale.
Beckinsale. Yeah, she's
Yeah, she's
gorgeous.
gorgeous, also pretty famous. He also dated what's her name from Bridgerton?
Oh, yeah.
Also, like,
Phoebe
Phoebe
did
some
I can't say her last name, but
a
yeah,
pretty big
Phoebe.
deal.
Yeah, I
So,
know. I'm like, I think his content is really good. I watched his movie, King of Staten Island. It was funny.
he's probably, like, very nice. Like, there's
I
clearly
know. I don't
something
I
that
don't
makes him worth
understand the Pete
dating.
Davidson slander, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Anywho, okay. Moving on to green flags, which I feel like a lot of them we already talked about because it's kind of like what the opposites of our red flags are. But you guys submitted a lot of things um, that I think are worth talking about. One of which is someone who's willing to try new things and try out things that you like. Um,
This is like I feel like a big one because I know when I go into relationships, like I'm willing to like find out what the other person likes, and like with Mike when we started dating, it was like okay, like what stuff is he into, and I was willing to like try things that were outside my comfort zone that I would never have done otherwise because I was like oh he's into this like, and it was so important to me that he was also willing to do the reciprocal and was like willing to try things and do things that I like that he had never thought about. I remember like early on to dating, I was like, so do you know about Broadway musicals? And
yeah,
I just like played him a lot of Broadway music and, like, told him about musicals and made him watch Hamilton the movie with me, and he loved it. He was like, "Oh, this is really good," and, like, liked it, but just had never been exposed to it, and I was like, "Look at us just, like, opening up new worlds for each other."
Yeah, I think that's so important. Like, Jack watches my reality TV shows with me,
Yeah, Mike watches Bachelorette with me. He gets on board.
and I love it, and, like, he'll engage with it, and I love that we can have that moment together. I think also too, like, the one thing I will say about this is I think it's great when people are willing to try new things. I also think it's okay that if you're partnered with someone or dating someone who doesn't like what you like, you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
have
yeah. You don't
different
have to have all
interests.
the same interests for sure. But I think it's nice at the beginning to be willing to learn about it and try out
Yeah.
some things. Like, I know Mike likes football. I do not like watching football. And, I tried it a bit in the beginning and he appreciated that effort, but he doesn't try to
Yeah.
make me do it now.
Totally. Or like I said, Jack watches my reality TV shows with me. It's actually the one show he won't watch he really doesn't like is The Bachelorette and or The Bachelor, any of those. And like that's fine. I'm like, you don't have to sit here and watch every single episode with me. Like I understand.
They're a real commitment. They're like 2 hours each. So that's
Totally
fair.
is. And like commercials, anyhow. So yeah, I think that's really important, but also just being respectful when your partner isn't interested in something that you're interested in, like and that's
Hmm.
okay. I've tried to get Jack to run with me so many times and he's like, "I don't want to run." And I just have to respect it.
Yeah.
Not his
I'd be the
thing.
same way if Mike asked me to do that. I'd be like, no, thank you.
He wants me to rock climb. I don't like heights. Like we all have boundaries and that's okay.
Absolutely. Another one that was flagged for us was as a green flag is when they have um, good friends, like their friends are like nice people and that they're welcoming to you. I think that that's such a good sign if you like get
Yeah.
along with their friends to be like, oh, like the people that they choose to be around are really nice and people that I would like spending my time with and like the people who are important to the person I'm interested in are also people that I would be willing to spend my time with and to especially early on like the feeling of feeling welcome is
Yeah.
so nice.
I agree. I feel like that's just like straight to the point. Green flag. Love it. We love to see it. We love when people are nice to us. We love when the person we're interested in has friends who are interested in us too. It's great.
Mhm.
Another one kind of similar to this, I feel like a little bit, is they make you feel comfortable, secure, and safe, which I feel like is probably one of my biggest green
Yeah.
flags personally. It's just
Mhm.
someone that I feel really safe with. And like I don't have to constantly be like watching myself
Yeah, like, you
almost,
don't have to, like, perform or, like,
Yeah,
act like any other thing than exactly who you are.
totally. Um,
Yeah, I think that's also one of my, like, biggest green flags.
Agreed. Another green flag is someone who has their own interests and hobbies. I think this one's really important for me too because I think it's a really for me it's very attractive to see someone who has things that they're passionate about
Mhm.
um, or interested in. So I think and if they don't like that's okay too. I think maybe it's just like the larger question of why
Right, like, have
sometimes.
they tried putting themselves out there to, like, be interested in something?
Yeah,
Another green flag is one that we kinda touched on already, but, just a willingness to admit when they don't know something or a willingness to learn and being open to hearing about new experiences or perspectives, I think is really important.
yeah. I think it's very powerful when someone's able to admit that they don't know the answer or that they were wrong, just in general.
Yeah. I have to remind myself of that friendly because I am not the first person to admit it when I'm wrong. I don't like to do that. No, I do not. But I really respect it when I see other people do it. And like Mike is one of those people who will just like admit it when he's wrong or like admit that he didn't think of that or like change his mind. And I'm like, wow, he just like went and just like got new information and he just like changed his mind on that. I'm just like, I could learn a thing or two.
I feel like I'm pretty quick to admit that I don't know something or that I'm wrong or that I made a mistake. But like sometimes there will be things where like someone's really telling me I'm wrong and I know that I'm not wrong. Like that's what really
Hmm.
gets me,
Yeah.
you know? It's like when you
Like,
know
oh
the
my
facts
damn
and someone's like, "No, you don't have them right." And I'm like, "No, but I swear I do."
it. Yeah.
So just like every once in a while, I'm like, "No, no, no."
Hmm. I feel
I
like I'm
never
pretty good at admitting when I don't know something, but if I think I know it and someone's telling me I'm wrong, that's harder for me.
like,
but I,
"Hmm."
but I appreciate it in a partner when they're better at it than me.
Yeah. I love it. Um, Another one is someone who handles arguments well, which I agree with, but I actually feel like with this one, um, is something you kinda learn over time.
Yeah, it's definitely like a learned skill.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's not that I think I'm so great at having arguments, but I definitely think that Jack and I are way more productive when we have arguments now than what we used to
Mhm.
because we had
Yeah.
completely different styles. He's the kind of person that's like, doesn't like to go to bed angry, likes to kind of just address
Yeah,
the problem
talk it
head
all
on.
out.
I'm the
Yeah.
person who's like, I would like to go have some alone time for 24 to 48 hours to mull it
Let me
over.
just say that I'm glad to hear this because I am the exact same way, and Mike is just like Jack. Mike is like, "Let's talk this all out immediately right now. We're gonna figure it all out. We're gonna say all of our feelings. We're gonna rehash this until we understand each other's perspectives in and out, and we come to a resolution, and everything's great." And I'm like, "I need 2 business days to process
Yep.
this. Thank you."
Thank you so much. Um And I'm not sure why it is. I think for me, I really don't wanna say things in anger.
Yeah,
I don't wanna say things that I don't mean. So I
me too.
like
I really wanna be sure.
yes, because
That's how I feel.
I feel like I can be quick to say things that I don't mean. So and I think I've actually gotten very good at not doing that because I
Mhm.
take the time
Yep.
to process it and then think really about what I wanna say.
Yeah.
Um,
We could probably do a whole episode on how to argue or, like, having
yeah,
arguments or, like, learning about arguments because I feel like I'm the same way. Sometimes I'm literally like, "I have to go into the other room now." I need to just, like,
totally.
think
Yeah, maybe I won't say too much more so we can really unpack this because I
because
feel
I
like
feel like there's a lot to talk about.
I feel like I have a whole process of how I deal
Yeah,
with arguments.
yeah, exactly. But I think, like, it's definitely a green flag when you realize that someone is willing to work through it with you,
Yes.
like, understand your style and their style, and I really appreciate, like, especially, like, in my current relationship, like, we never have an argument that, like, delves into, like, name calling
Mhm.
or, like, getting at making it about someone's, like, personality or, like, generalizing to, like, a whole slew of things as opposed to, like, what we're actually talking about in the moment, and I think that that's important.
Yeah, love it. Um, okay, so then just some, like, fun extra ones of, like, green flags that people submitted that, um, are just things that they really enjoy in a potential partner or someone they're dating. And one is, someone who shares food, which I agree with, but
Yeah.
also, I'm not the best at this.
Yeah. It's like, I like it in other people, less so in myself.
For me specifically, I don't like sharing dessert.
Yeah, I feel you.
I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older.
I don't like to share my ice cream.
I also try to remind myself that, if I share and I finish and I feel like I want more, I can always order another one.
Mhm, I try to remind myself of that, but it's hard.
I feel like it's, like, specific to no, I feel like it's all desserts.
I know it's for me, it's desserts for sure.
I was like, maybe it's just when I'm out, like, at a restaurant and I'm ordering a dessert, but, like, no, I feel
No, I
kinda
do that at
similarly
home with
even when
my
it's
ice
at
cream.
home. Yeah. Or,
I'm
like,
like, "Go get your own."
I'm really specific, like, I don't like if I have a dessert that I got that's, like, mine that I really like, I don't want Jack to finish it.
Oh, I'm the same way. It's like, "You better not
Yeah.
finish it." Like, "I got this for me, and you know that, so, like, you can't have the last piece of whatever it is."
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I have told my, like, former roommates this too.
Yeah.
Anyone
It's
who's
like
listening that's a former roommate of mine will know this. Like, I would be like, "Listen, I don't have a lot of things that I'm picky about, at least I don't think so, but I could be totally wrong. This is one though, like, do not eat the last piece of my cake.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
do
"You
it.
finish
Or
my pie,
tell
you're
me
dead to me."
first, like, ask me."
That's the thing, yeah, you have to ask, and I can tell you,
Yes.
like, "No, I was really looking forward to that piece, you can't have it," or like, "Yeah, you know what, I'm not gonna get
If
to it,
it's
you got it."
cake, I planned on eating it, so don't even bother.
Yeah.
Another green flag that someone talked about is someone who knows how to cook. And I think I agree, like, Jack is pretty good at cooking, and that's been great for me. I It's been more of a learned skill for me. It's been more of a learned
Yeah.
skill. So,
I'm still very much in the learning phase, but I really reap the benefits of Mike being able to cook.
I bake. And I know
Yeah,
how to cook. I just, like it's not my favorite thing to do. As we speak,
same.
Jack is starting dinner. So, um,
Awesome.
but yeah, I bake
Mike
for
made us
him.
pizza tonight.
Oh,
Was
yum.
delish.
Chef's kiss. Another one that someone put is someone who's open to splitting costs. And I think this is also it's kind of a values-based one because
Mhm.
I know some people who are a little more traditional. It's like guy
Yeah, they're
pays
like,
for
"I want them
everything.
to pay," and if they don't, that's a red flag.
And then I also know other people who are like very much
Mhm.
split. I know some people are like more proportional. I
Yep.
feel like that's kind of how I personally, in my relationship, we do a lot of like proportions. We also do a lot of splitting 50-50.
Mhm.
Um, Jack is also like a generous guy who likes to take me out on dates, which I love because I love free food. And
Don't we all?
I guess I also love going on dates with my boyfriend. I also love I think it just really goes back to like having those conversations.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's almost like even the earlier the better to have
Yeah.
those
Yeah, just
conversations.
figure out what people want and their preferences and if, like, some of those fundamental values align with yours.
Because I remember in the beginning of my relationship, Jack was, and this is when we were both like still in college, he was paying for a lot of stuff. And at first I was like, oh, cute, like beginning of the relationship. And then at one point I was like, so listen, like, this isn't going to work. Like, you can't just pay every time we go out to dinner. Like, that's not,
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't like feeling like I owe people stuff, which is like my own personal problem I should probably work through. But for me, that's not how I wanted to balance our relationship. I didn't want him to pay for everything. I appreciated his generosity, but I wanted it to be a little bit more of like a 50-50 kind of a split. Um,
Mhm.
but that's not how everyone operates. So I just think you have to have a conversation about it.
Yep. Agreed.
Um, I would also just add on to that, like a green flag for me is someone who's willing to talk about money and finances. And now for
Mhm.
that, I don't mean on the first date, you're telling me how much you make. That's not what I'm asking for.
Right.
More so just someone who's willing to have a conversation with you about it, and also to like your philosophies on spending money and saving and things like that. Like if you really want to save to buy a house one day and the person that you're partnered with couldn't care less about that, like you might want to have a conversation about that, you know?
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that rounds up our first, take on red flags and green flags. I feel like we could do this again because I
Yeah.
feel like everyone
There's
has
definitely more to talk about.
specific ones. This is probably our longest episode ever.
Yeah.
So just because I feel like there were a lot to talk about. Um, so we would love to hear your thoughts. If you agree with these, if you don't, if there are more that you would have added to our list that you'd like us to talk about.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Sisterly. Please feel free to let us know on Instagram at SisterlyPod what you thought of the episode. If you have additional red or green flags, we'd love to use them on a future episode. It was really fun to get these submitted to us. We'll see you on the next one.